So I'm Jess, and in a moment Jackie will talk to you. We are from an organisation called Green Connect, which is a social enterprise based in Wollongong in the Illawarra. So for those of you who don't know the Illawarra, that's where I need to start. It's a region that grew out of the development of mining and manufacturing, particularly coal and steel. These were industries that created jobs, and a lot of people moved to the area to work in these industries. These industries also had big impacts on the environment, including the local environment and the health and well-being of people in the surrounding community. For decades now, these industries have been shedding jobs, and the Illawarra now has one of the highest unemployment rates in Australia. This affects some groups more than others. And for young people living in a community with a long history of high unemployment, many have never seen what it means to have and keep a job. They've never had someone in their household going to work and having that behaviour modelled for them. In the communities in which we work, in Warrawong and Port Kembla, youth unemployment is between 24 and 36%. Wollongong is also home to the biggest refugee community in regional New South Wales, and Australia-wide, former refugees, only 31% have a job 5 years after resettlement. For former refugees, when they first arrived, they've never seen what it means to have and keep a job in Australia. So Green Connect set up to work with former refugees and young people, provide training and support, and we do this by running a business. So Green Connect does three things. Firstly, we run a farm and grow what we call fair food. So it's local, seasonal, chemical free. But for us, fair food is about food that's good for those who eat it, those who grow it, and the planet. We work in waste recovery, the reason that we're here and talking to you. And so we work with events and organisations, firstly to avoid and then maximise recovery of waste, and that's what Jackie's going to focus on today. So this includes everything from turning food and garden organics into compost, to working at large events and festivals to stop the products coming in to begin with and maximise recovery through that festival, and also working in consultancy, but really what we mean is largely working with schools and unis to understand what's going on there, so audit the waste and help them work on a strategy to minimise waste over time. Lastly, we actually work in labour hire, which is about the pathway out for a lot of our staff. So some people who come to work for Green Connect don't want to be a farmer long term, don't want to work in waste recovery, and that's fine, but they need a first employment experience. And so labour hire is about connecting a large chunk of our staff to other industries and organisations and businesses so that they can pursue the job they want to do long term. So last year, Green Connect employed 114 former refugees and young people. We grew and distributed 13,754 kilos of local seasonal chemical-free food, and we kept 1,990 tonnes of waste out of landfill. 82% of our business was covered with income from trade. So that's great, but we really need to get to 100% so that it is sustainable long term. It's great that we have philanthropic partners at the moment who are supporting us with that shortfall, but really we need to grow our business so that we can, one, create more outcomes in our community, because actually it's not enough in our community to create pathways to employment for people. We actually have to create jobs because we need jobs for people to move into, and also so that we can be a sustainable business long term.
Thanks, Jess. So I manage the waste services for Green Connect, and I was just going to give you a brief overview of how we do it, what we do, and then a little bit of where to from here. It's not very complicated, so I guess I'll walk through the complicated bit. So first of all, when staff first come to work for Green Connect, they do some training with us, and that training has become quite a large program now that supports our staff through a whole range of different areas that they might need help with, particularly our refugee staff. Things that we really take for granted. So, I mean, most Australians sort of get what super is. People who've come from a refugee background, it's really difficult to explain things like superannuation, pay slips, responding to rosters, things like that. So the support we put in front end with our staff is where most of, I guess, our support work happens. I then go out, find some great event organisers who are motivated to reduce waste and work with them really to minimise waste, as Jess said. Also do some pre-event liaison, particularly with food stall holders, to try and minimise the products that are coming in that are problematic and maximise products that are compostable. Prepare waste management plans and organise bins and skips, so not rocket science, but something that needs to be done. Then we get to the slightly trickier bit, which is I have to get my staff to an event. So I have to actually roster the staff on, which, you know, you'd send a text message usually, get a response, yep, I can come to work. For us, it's a lot more complicated than that. So we're generally making phone calls, meeting with people face to face, talking to their kids, talking to their, other support staff who have been in the country a lot longer than them and can translate for them. And then we also organise carpooling, because often we're working at events that are a long way away. It's not as easy as just jumping on a local bus if you don't have access to transport. When we're at events, we set up bin stations, like this one. And then the first job we get people doing is hand sorting waste, because you can hand sort waste with 0 words of English. So it's a really great entry-level job in Australia because we can do everything by demonstration. So that's the first job that people would do when they come to work for Green Connect. We keep as much waste, as Jess said, out of landfill. We're always trying to encourage recovering organics, recycling where we can, and we're starting to work with the beverage container recycling scheme, which is lots of opportunities and lots of challenges. Thanks for bringing it in on the 1st of December, just in time for event season. We do a lot of litter picking and changing bins, and they're actually the 2 jobs you graduate to. So once you can hand sort waste, you can identify waste, and people who work with us have got enough understanding of English that I can direct them to do a job and they'll actually know what they're agreeing to do. Then we step people up so they're working a little bit more independently, which is going off, making sure bins don't overflow and picking up litter. So again, nothing difficult, but it's something that has to happen at festivals and events, and it's something where we can, help people to grow through that work. I was not quite up to that bit actually. And I don't know how to go back, so you'll just have to look at that lovely image for a minute. Thank you. So after events, the other job that we do for a lot of mostly local councils is provide waste education. So we actually upskill our staff enough that they can be standing monitoring a bin station and assisting the general public when they come up to know which bin to use and try and provide some basic waste education. After events, we're cleaning up, we're providing waste audits to help planning for future events. And generally we find for a festival or an event without any organics diversion, we can guarantee around about 55% of waste out of landfill, which is not great, but it's a start, and usually 75% and up for festivals where we do have organics that we're diverting on site. So far this year we've hit our 2,000 tonnes of waste out of landfill already, which is great. We've turned 1,759 tonnes of waste into compost and employed 126 people. And 12 of those people are actually employed permanently through some of the work that we do in waste and some of the work we do at the farm. And all of this is fantastic and sounds like we're making real improvements. And with some festivals, we have brought them on a journey from maybe getting around that 50% out of landfill to sort of hitting 75%. And I've got a particular festival I'm working with that next year will easily get to 90%. Event organisers are seeing that this is actually something they can sell as part of their event, that they are a green festival and that they're actually making a difference and wanting to address concerns, particularly for the younger generation that are coming along to festivals. That's generally for festivals without on-site camping. So then I get to my special picture here. And this is the last thing I was going to talk about because I know I think we're running a bit late today and might be hanging for afternoon tea. But for the festivals that we work at with a younger generation, I would say 25 and under, there's a really big problem around waste that I think when I took on this job I wasn't as aware of as I should have been, but I think if people have seen photos of like the Glastonbury Festival and the aftermath of even things like Melbourne Cup, or we had St Kilda Beach on New Year's Day this year, or Christmas Day I think it was, there's people who have somehow got into their mind that having fun in this country means trashing yourself, trashing the planet, and that's actually part of the fun. And so these are the sort of scenes at a camping festival that we might be left with. So this festival, we could have run the entire event site for the whole festival at 90%, getting everything out of landfill, controlling all those products, but not being able to control necessarily what people bring into the camping festivals, but also leave behind. And to me, standing in this field, which was actually a 15-hectare site, so imagine this, but like 15 hectares of it, it's quite confronting, but it also is just planned obsolescence staring you in the face. You know, this stuff was meant to only last that one festival. It was $30 from Kmart. So for me, I guess the biggest challenge now is, you know, we've got a great employment model, we're getting great waste outcomes, but when it comes to camping festivals, we need to start working on waste education and really focusing on bringing younger people on that journey, finding out from younger people why this culture exists and how we can have a national conversation about changing that. And I think the War on Waste has helped engage with some young people. There's definitely some really engaged young people out there, but this being, you know, the general state of play is not something that we enjoy working with at all and doesn't make you feel positive for the future. We do clean it up. That's a before and after and then the end, but it creates heaps of jobs, but what we're really trying to look at is doing the best by the planet and the best by the people that we work with. So if anyone has any ideas or suggestions, I'd love to talk to you about how we manage that. And I think that's the end. And another pig.